So, in your programming questions, sometimes you get given existing code that you've got to fix, all right? So here's an example of a program, and the logic says here that if I say, for example, I've got an odd number here, 1, all right? The idea is that if I typed in, say, 3, 5, 7, you basically at this point is assuming you've typed in an odd number, okay? So it would be either 3, 5, 7, 9, and so on, okay? So if I, for example, typed in the number 5 here, all right, this program would work. So what it's going to do is, while odd is not equal to number, all right, remember the while loop, we always have a condition that we check as we loop every iteration, okay? So it says here it's going to print out odd, all right? Well, odd originally started as number 1, okay? Then it's going to add 2 to that number, all right, which now becomes 3, okay? But then I'm not equal to 5 yet, all right? Remember, I've typed in 5 here, I said, as my example, all right? So then 2 is added to it again, so now it becomes 5. While odd is not equal to, notice I've met the condition now, 5 is equal to 5, so therefore the program's finished. So it works, as it said. A program has been written in Python to display all odd integers between 1 and the largest odd number smaller than the integer entered by the user. The program is shown below. The program works correctly if the integer entered by the user is an odd positive integer. For example, if 7 is entered, it will show the values 1, 3, and 5, which I've just shown you. The program does not work correctly if the odd integer is less than 1 by the user. For example, if I typed in -7, it should display 1, -1, -3, -5, but it does not do this. Using Python only, so you need to look out for that in your exam, because a lot of the time in previous questions, some students will answer in pseudo, but you've got to look. The only time you write in pseudocode is if it asks you to write an algorithm. If it says write a program, it's always in Python. Change the code inside the while loop. Again, it's your reading of the question. It wants you to change just this bit here. All right? So that it will work correctly for any odd integer. All right? So, the logic here, all right, you've got to imagine, I'm just going to write this out as if it's still there. You don't need to do this. You just need to write the section that's going to go here. All right? But the logic here would be odd equals 1, number equals int input. I'm only writing this out again so you can see. Enter an integer. I'm only writing this out again so that you can really see how to use these lines, because many students often forget this. Then, while odd is not equal to number. So the bit they want you to do now is fix this so that it works with any type of number. So if it's a negative number, we're going to go backwards. If you look at the example here, all right, if it was a negative number, we're going to start at 1 and go backwards, okay? But it doesn't work for negative numbers at the moment. So what you can do is inside your while loop, you can create an if statement, all right? So what I'm going to do, all right, inside my while loop is I'm going to keep that line. I need to print out what the odd number was. Print odd. So, because this is the bit that's missing. At the moment, it works with positive numbers. So if I typed in, say, 7, it's going to add 2 to it each time, starting at 1. Yeah? So it'll go 1, 3, 5, 7. The problem at the moment is it wants you to add it so that it goes backwards. So what we're going to do is have an if statement that checks whether the number is a negative number or a positive number. Well, to check whether something is a negative number, you only really need to do an if statement to check if it's less than 0. So what you would do there is, so I printed that, I'm writing if number is less than 0. Remember, after an if, you always move in. So after an if, use the line to go in. If you type in a while, you go in. If you type in an if, you go in. So we're going to do odd equals odd minus 2. So if it's a negative number, I'm going backwards. So that would go 1 minus 1, because what's 1 minus 2? 0 minus 1. Yeah, so we go to 0 first, then we go to minus 1. Then it would go minus 3. Then it would go minus 5, and so on. Now, I need to check if it's a positive number still. Well, you can just put an else in there. You don't need another if statement. If it's not a negative number, it's going to be a positive. Odd plus 2. You don't need to put end while. You don't need anything like that. Yes, question?
What if the user puts 0?
What if the user puts 0? That is not included in the question, but you might want to, there might be another example, alright? It might be that
0 is not odd.
0 is not odd, so it shouldn't actually be typed in. Good point there. But it might be that in some cases, alright, that they give you a third bullet point here to extend this question. So if they type in a 0, it's an invalid answer. So I suppose in that case, you could have else if number equal to 0, and then you could print out invalid. It depends on how the question comes across, all right? So that's how you would fix that, all right? I will show you another coding question in a minute.